What you'll tend to find in January when people want to quote unquote lose weight is that they'll often gravitate to steady state cardio, in particular jogging. And to be fair to jogging, there are actually some benefits to doing it. For example purposes, it will burn calories and boost your metabolism for a couple of hours afterwards. So that's not a bad thing. If you've not exercised in a long time and you start jogging, you'll probably notice strength improvements in your legs. Again, not a bad thing. And if you've not exercised in a long time and you start jogging, you'll probably notice some weight loss. So again, there are benefits to it. It ain't all doom and gloom. However, there are better options, much better options. And if we're going back to the school system, I would personally grade jogging a grade D, meaning that it's far from the best. It's not a C, a B, or an A. But at the same time, it's better than doing absolutely nothing. So what I'm going to do for you in this video is first share with you the downsides of jogging. Because once you understand the downsides of jogging, you'll then understand why I've graded it a D. And then what I'll do after that is share with you two better, I don't even want to say better, much better alternatives. So let's get into the video. So for those that don't know, cortisol is the stress hormone and it is the opposite of testosterone. And what I mean by that is when testosterone is high, cortisol tends to be lower, and vice versa. When cortisol is high, testosterone comes down. So the problem is with jogging, especially when it's done for prolonged periods of time, is that it can lower your testosterone levels. And testosterone is considered by many to be the male hormone. So how I personally class jogging is that it's kind of like an anti-male exercise. It's not something that I particularly want to be doing for extended periods of time. And I do want to make this point, and that is if you're a man and you happen to enjoy jogging, then it is probably something that you should probably do. But here's the point I want to make. Jogging shouldn't be your sole focus. You should be doing other things, and I'll be talking about this later on in the video. And again, something worth mentioning here from a physique development perspective is that excess cortisol eats into muscle tissue, which for many people is not a good thing. Like, just look at the physique of a marathon runner. Yes, they're low body fat, but they're skinny as hell. They're skin on bones. Let's continue on from the previous point because years ago, I don't know if this is still circulating at this moment in time, but anyway, years ago there was an image shared and it was comparing the physique of a marathon runner and the physique of an Olympic sprinter. And they look completely different. So what I've done for you is I've replicated that image. And as you can see on your screen right now, you've got the marathon runner on your left and you've got the Olympic sprinter on the right. Just look at the marathon runner. It's skin and bones. There's nothing to him. Then look at the Olympic sprinter. It's pure lean muscle. And to be fair, this makes perfect sense because your body is an adaptation machine. If sleep, nutrition, stress management, all that good stuff is dialed in, then whatever exercises you throw at your body, it will adapt to it. So if you're a marathon runner, for example, who needs to be able to run 25 miles, having loads of muscle on your frame is not a good idea. It's going to weigh you down. Contrast that to an Olympic sprinter though, who needs to get from A to B as quickly as possible. He needs that fast twitch lean muscle. He needs that acceleration. He needs that power. And if we're talking purely from a physique development perspective, sprinting is really as good as it gets. Not only does it burn body fat like absolute mad, it also builds lean muscle tissue as well. The only problem with sprinting that I can think of is that the injury rates can be quite high, and that is because of the demands that you're putting on your body. Just look at the action of sprinting. You're going from A to B as quickly as possible. But there are ways to mitigate their injury risks. For example purposes, you could sprint uphill instead. When you sprint uphill, that will reduce top end speed. Another advantage of sprinting uphill as well is because of the resistance, it will actually build more muscle tissue. The rock solid truth is that there's an actual technique to running, yet most people don't know how to do it because they've not been coached, they've not been trained. And just imagine, right, you've got somebody that's hitting the pavement 5, 6, 7 days a week, mile after mile after mile after mile. That is a lot of stress on your body. Like ankle problems, knee problems, and hip problems are common. They're common amongst runners. The runners will encounter these problems at some point or another because of the stress that it's putting on your body. I would honestly go as far to say that if I personally had a choice between walking and long distance running, from an exercise perspective, I'm talking here, I would choose walking. Not only is walking safer, but from a cortisol perspective, it's actually much, much better. In fact, walking is therapeutic, it relieves stress. So now that you know the downsides of jogging, you probably know why I've graded it a D. So let's talk about the two things that you can be doing. If we're talking purely from a physique development perspective, so basically somebody who just wants to look better naked, then strength training is an absolute must. It's non-negotiable, and this applies to both men and to women. What strength training does is gives your body shape. It also raises your resting metabolic rate, which basically means that you're burning more calories throughout the day. This is what most people want. And the beauty of strength training is that you don't need to live in the gym. 3 days a week, really, is all 3 days a week, full body workouts are all that's required. Obviously, you've got to manage your stress, you've got to manage your nutrition, you've got to choose the right exercise, etc. But if you do all those things, you will build muscle. And I did a video previously where I was talking about how to improve your appearance. And in that video, I basically said that before you even bother with clothes and fashion and things of that nature, I basically said put muscle on your frame. And the reason why I said put muscle on your frame is because when you have muscle on your frame, your clothes will fit you better. And a very good example of this, right, is that you could have a guy with an athletic body wearing a $20 t-shirt from Target, and that t-shirt will look expensive. Yet contrast that to a guy who's on the overweight side wearing a $300 t-shirt, and it probably won't look as good on him. The most expensive clothes is really an athletic body, and that you can't buy in a shop. So let's explain HIIT or high intensity interval training so that you understand what it is. It's basically hard intense exercises followed by short rest periods. That's the easiest way to describe it. And you can do this with sprints. So what you do is you go with sprinting, you go all out as fast as you can, and then as you feel that your speed's dropping off, you stop. And then you walk back to where you started. And that walk back is your rest period. And then once you get back to the starting point, you go at it again and you do this for a couple of rounds. And obviously, I wouldn't recommend somebody that's brand new to exercise to start sprinting on the ground because they'll probably more than likely get injured. But they can mimic this using machines at the gym. For example, somebody could use an assault bike. So they go all out for 15 seconds, 10, 15 seconds. They have a short rest period and then go at it again. And they do this for rounds.